Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Our guest today is David Lindsay. David is a personal trainer who has devoted his life to helping both CEOs and Olympians achieve peak performance at work. He specializes in helping high performers who want to achieve massive things in life without falling prey to toxic hustle culture. He's not your typical expert. He has a black belt in Wing Chun and had a professional rugby league and arm wrestling career. Some of the topics that we cover with David include how he converted what he learned from professional sport to educating people in a corporate space, why practice makes permanent and how little improvements get you closer to perfection, achieving peak performance, why being a CEO can be like training as an Olympian, and more. I want to pause for a moment to share with you something pretty exciting that we've been working on. My Primal Coach is an app-based health coaching program. It delivers daily health lessons, actionable tips, and provides personal one-on-one coaching to help you stay on track and reach your wellness goals. My Primal Coach is developed and delivered by the team behind Primal Health Coach Institute. We have trained and certified thousands of successful health coaches across 75 countries around the world. We're experts in behavior change, and we understand how to get clients the results they desire. Check it out for yourself at myprimalcoach.com. We'd love to see who's listening out there, so take a screen grab of your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. And don't forget, the show notes for this episode and all previous shows can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. So let's get on with today's highly energetic conversation, which is pretty impressive when you consider that our guest lives on the other side of the globe and had to wake up at 3 a.m. just to record it. Please welcome our guest, David Lindsay.
All right. Today we have David Lindsay. David, I was checking out your website and I'm like, damn, this guy is a high performer. So we're super excited to talk to you and pick your brain a little bit about what you do and how you got started. Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about you, like the 5-minute backstory on how you got where you are?
Yeah, 100%. And it's a great place to start because we all have a history. No matter where you come from, you always bring parts of who you are from your past. And with me, that started, obviously, like everyone, as a little kid. I've always been an athletic kid into sports. I've played soccer, baseball, went in and played baseball for New South Wales. I played rugby league, and that's really what kicked me on, is playing rugby league. I'm a little guy playing a big guy's game. And that is really where my competitive juices started flowing. And from that, I got picked up. At the moment, I'm in Sydney, Australia, and that's where I was born and raised. And I used to live in the Cronulla area and got picked up by South Sydney, which they're a big rugby league team here in Australia. Mm-hmm. So being a little guy playing against big guys, I couldn't let them beat me. Oh, yeah. And with that, I knew the importance of training both the body and the mind. Because if the mind buckles, the body follows. So I went into rugby league and I suffered 2 knee reconstructions. My first one was when I was 17 years old. The second one was when I was 22 years old. So at the ripe old age of 22, I had to retire from rugby league. And that was really where my heart and soul was. Being an athlete, I also started personal training at the age of 19. So I had that on the side as well. But I'm just no good at sitting on the sidelines. And after my knee reconstruction, I got chatting to a guy at a Westfields, a big shopping center over here, and asked me if I ever got into arm wrestling. It's a weird sport. And it's funny because I thought he was trying to pick me up over there, just some guy coming up and talking to me because I was a lot bigger back then and going, have you done arm wrestling? And I go, my girlfriend's just over there. I just didn't know where it was going. So, and he gave me his business card and I went, this sounds really interesting to me. So I went and I did lots and lots of training with arm wrestling to build up their technique, build up their power, and was on my way to America to go in some professional arm wrestling tournaments.
Wow.
But there was a big but. It was on our around the world trip. I went to Corfu for a mate's wedding. Then we were going to go to Barbados, then to America. But I snapped my arm wrestling in Corfu. I snapped away and boom.
Oh, man.
The bone.
The bone.
Hey.
And when I first did it, because you might be able to see the
Yeah.
scar
Oh,
there.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's quite sizey. And for a little while, I did used to tell people that the bone popped out. It didn't really. It was just a good thing to add to the story. But that stopped our around the world trip, and we had to fly back to Sydney and get an operation, get a plate put in my arm. And with that, my arm went paralyzed because I hit a nerve. Yeah, it was, and my world had come to an end. Being an athlete, being a coach, a trainer, personal trainer, who's going to want someone that can't use their arm? So all of a sudden, my world just got pulled out from underneath me. I thought playing rugby league and having to stop that was enough. But then into the arm wrestling, not being able to use my arm, losing my livelihood, I was devastated.
Yeah.
And with that, I went and got a nerve conduction study, and that's where they put needles in the arm and send electrical pulses through to see how the muscles make sure they're firing. And I got the results from that, and they go, David, I'm sorry, the nerves are shriveled up and dying. And I went home and I was in tears. I locked myself in my unit for, it was probably about 3 days. It felt like 3 months. And then I sort of came to the conclusion, David, you've overcome all of these obstacles to get to here. Why should this be any different?
Yeah.
So I went and I go, I'm not going to let some doctor beat me. I'm not going to let some little broken bone beat me. What can I do? So I tried everything, the homeopathy, naturopathy, all these different things, physiotherapy, whatever I could to get things back. And 4 months later, I started to get a little bit of movement in my arm. And I was so excited. I called up my parents. I called up my girlfriend. And luckily, she was still my girlfriend at that point, because I ruined our holiday. I had to come back to Australia after that. And it's a feel-good story because she's now my wife, and we have a lovely daughter as well. So everything all works out in the end. But once I started to get movement back, I was still at that point 23, 24 years old. So I'm still, even to this day, I'm still competitive. But when I was doing my personal training course, there was a martial arts school just across the road. And I went, let's give that a go. Because my way of looking at things is I played rugby league. I had 2 knee reconstructions. I played a safer sport and had a worse injury. I could go and play chess, but I'll probably get too excited, fall off and do an even bigger injury. So I thought, let's go the whole other way. Let's go do martial arts. I did Kung Fu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, submission wrestling, freestyle wrestling, and kickboxing. And worked my way up, did some jiu-jitsu tournaments, had quite a few cage fights, had more cage fights canceled than actual fights because that was right in the early days of MMA, UFC, all that sort of stuff. But a big thing that happened to me there was wrestling and meeting my wrestling coach, because size really, it counts for a little bit, but most of it is mind. If you can control your opponent's mind, if you can control your mind, you're going to win the match. And then from there, that's where everything else flowed off the back of it. With my wrestling coach, he's just guided me along different areas, showed me what was possible. And then from there, I got into doing speaking, taking my life as an athlete, as a coach, trainer, and bringing that to the corporate world. Because that's what everyone needs. They need to think of things as a team, whether it's in the business world, sports world, your own business. We work as a team. In rugby league, you have different positions requiring different skill sets and different mindsets. Same as in business. You don't need the accountant to know what's really happening front of house. Same as front of house doesn't need to know what's going on back of house, but they need to do their roles extremely well to be their part in the team to raise everyone up.
Mm-hmm.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That is quite the origin story. I want to know, so you competed in all these sports, had all these injuries, picked yourself back up every time. And then sort of the end of the story was like, became a speaker, work with corporations, but like what happened in the middle there? So,
right.
Where did you start? So you were a trainer, like a personal trainer working with clients. Was this in a gym?
Yeah, correct. So I was lucky enough to, when I played rugby league as well, I was contracted with them. They gave me a job at their club. Okay. So, and on the side of the club, there was a gym there. So I used to train other footballers, like my mates, all that sort of stuff. And when, you just have that burning desire to help more people.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you have to get your qualifications, obviously, your qualifications, your insurance. The more knowledge that you have in your industry, the better and more people you can help.
Yeah.
So I went and I started training, as I said, mates and other footballers, did my training certificate, and then started training in the gym as well as outside of the gym. Because I'm in Sydney. We have fantastic weather.
Yeah.
And so why not utilize it? So many people nowadays as well, they're stuck indoors. They're stuck in this little dingy office with artificial lighting. Why not make the most of it? Get some natural sunlight, get outside, get some fresh air, and get active at the same time. Yeah, so I sort of worked in a gym and outside as well. And now I also manage a gym as well as doing the speaking.
Cool. Okay. That's good. So now you're working in this sort of speaking, and is it like corporate? So it's corporate, but is it corporate fitness? Well, mindset, you said it's more like mindset stuff. So corporate coaching then, like, tell us a little bit about what you do with these corporations.
Yeah. So what I do is I go in and I speak to them. Originally, it's a 5 steps towards improved vitality. So that's a keynote that I use it. And we'll more than likely go into that a little bit later. We'll see how it pans out. But then from there, I go in and I do my 5 steps towards improved vitality. Then what I also do is we have a 8-week online course where that's available to anyone to go and they buy it online. That's a 3 pillars to high performance. Okay. But in corporates, what you do is I go in and I do the 5 steps towards improved vitality, and then go in once a month with the 3 pillars to high performance. And that's over 12 months. Okay. So because a keynote or whatever is great to get people up, to give them ideas. But, motivation, like we train, motivation spikes and then it comes down. And I think it's Zig Ziglar who said, motivation only is temporary, but so are showers. So we shower every day. So you get that motivation every day, every week, every month, and eventually it'll raise it up and it becomes from external to internal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that you're leading with one keynote, because we've talked to other experts that are like, you really got to have one message that you can drive home and you become an expert in, and then you get out and you pitch that message because you're excellent at it. So you developed this 5 steps towards vitality. This is a keynote that you put together, correct? Yeah. How do you go about sort of pitching that to clients and corporations?
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's where I used to get stuck, especially in the early days. Mm-hmm. Many people, when they're starting a business or starting speaking or starting doing anything, you get a little bit shady, you get a little bit hesitant, because I'm not sure what it's really like over there, but in Australia, we have a thing called tall poppy syndrome, where people are happy to see you do well. They just don't want you to do better than them. Oh. So you get the wrong people and they try and chop you down. They try and drag you down. And that's a mindset that a lot of people have. And so they go, okay, I only want to get to here. Whereas, as I explained before, I'm a competitive person. I don't want to go here. I want to smash through the ceiling. So the way that I started it was I did a speaking course.
Oh.
It was right at the end of my athletic career. I just thought that was it for me. I'd done my deal. With training, you can reach 1-to-1, 1-to-30 in a class. And I thought that was about the level of it. But with speaking, you can reach 1-to-thousands. Online, you can reach 1-to-millions. So you can have a greater impact with that. So going and doing the speaking course, like I said, I never even knew of speaking as a profession. I thought it was only people like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Eric Thomas. And I thought they were just like gods. Who am I to be that person? Who's going to want to listen to me? What do I have to tell? And then I went and saw Eric Thomas when he came to Sydney. I've been to see him a few times and I just love his energy. That's what it's about. It's about raising people up. And yes, I went and did a speaking course, and time after time, I crafted and refined. And that's one of the steps it's the fifth and final step is recap. It's all about continuous, never ending improvement.
Right.
Whether that's in training, whether that's in speaking, whether it's doing podcasts on things like here, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to see what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going to get feedback from my friends. I'm going to share this to everyone I know and get feedback. And that goes into how I started with speaking as well, is not being scared to talk to people about it.
Yeah. How do you get over that? I mean, so it sounds to me as though you've had this, like you're a natural competitor, you're a natural go-getter. And it's not that you don't have fear. Everybody does, but some people appear to be better at getting past it. Do you have any particular advice on helping folks that just feel frozen because they're still so afraid?
Yeah. Is that, like you said, fear happens to everybody. Absolutely everybody. I don't care who you are. You look at the top singers, the top performers. The first time that they started, they were probably shaking in their boots. The first time that I went up and did a talk, like I'd practice it so much and put myself in such bad situations so that anything that happened on the stage was nothing compared to what I did in training. But yet I was still scared. Like I was going up. But what you have to do, you have to take that first step. You have to go, okay, so what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
Exactly.
Like if I go and I talk to this person and tell them I've got this fantastic keynote that I can serve for you guys, that can give your guys so much energy, raise their teamwork, morale, performance. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can go is not at the moment.
Yep.
Right.
So I'm no worse off, but each and every time that I'd go up and I'd talk about it, I'd get that little bit more confident. I'd feel that little bit more passionate and strong about what I do because I know what I have works. But you don't know that it works until you do the research, till you practice, till you get out there and do it. Yeah. It's like Mike Tyson says in boxing, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. So what you have to do is you have to go out and you do have to get punched in the face. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Yep.
It's like when you go to a gym, when you train, you don't start off with 100 kilos or 220 pounds. You start off small and then you progressively overload. But you also don't go 100 miles an hour for 24 hours a day either. You work in short, intense chunks because you want your performance to be at the peak.
Yeah.
And athletes, they're not at the top of their game 24/7, 365. They peak, they recover. They peak, they recover.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I think that we should feel nervous sometimes. So I feel like you're kind of dancing around the topic of maybe like this imposter syndrome or failure to launch, which happens a lot with coaches doing anything, whether it's a speaking gig, speaking type of thing, or developing a program. There's a lot of sort of cowering in one's shell, like, ooh, what if I put it out there and nobody likes it? It's like, yeah, that you literally have to go through that. You have to go through that. If you wait, you're still going to have to go through it. So yeah. I do feel that feeling nervous, I think that's important. I think I still feel a little nervous before every client call I get on, a little bit, like I hope this is good for my client. Cause then I'm stepping into it with that energy. Like I really do want this to be good.
Yes, 100%. And I agree with you 1,000%. If you don't feel nervous, you don't have that care factor.
Yeah.
Right.
Because from my position, when you have that nerves as well, it heightens everything. Like you said, you have to be able to step into that energy. You use that nervous energy and also I learned this from doing a lot of reading. When they spoke to a couple of athletes, they were both in the same running race. One of them was the favorite. The other one was just there to make up the numbers, really. And they go, are you nervous? The one that was expected to win goes, I'm not nervous. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Whereas this person was nervous. And you look at the physiological makeup of both. When you're excited, your heart rate comes up. You become focused. You're there. You're ready. Your heart's going. You're sweating. When you're nervous, your heart rate goes up. You're nervous. You're sweating. So it's the exact same physiological traits, but just the way that you think about it. So nervous and excited is necessary, but really it's one and the same. It's the way that you do it. And I love that feeling as well. Just before you go on stage, just before we started on here, I got that feeling of, it's time to perform.
Yeah.
And
that's so wild. I think it's just so wild. Like the way you've just described that nervousness and excitement feel the same.
They do.
Like what an interesting reframe.
Yeah. If you think about it too, I think the folks that feel excited are the ones that are focused on what's to gain, right? Mm-hmm. Versus the ones that associate it with just nervousness and negativity, they're focused on what's at stake, right? Yes. On the negative side of things. And I remember, Aaron, I don't know if you remember, but I remember my very first public speaking event and how terrified I was that I was going to forget what I had to say. So my first mistake was that I expected myself to adhere to a script. And then when I kind of lost my words, I kind of had to screw up, right? I lost my words. Mm-hmm. I lost track of what I was saying. I stopped for a minute and I looked at the audience and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to riff here because if I try to stay on script, I'm going to screw up again. And everybody laughed. They totally got it. I had my little slide deck behind me. So now Aaron and I talk about this all the time when we build presentations. We don't want a script. We just kind of want a couple bullet points so we stay on track. But, we know what we're talking about at this point, so you shouldn't be out talking about shit you don't know what you're talking about, right. Excuse my language. Yeah. So pick a topic that you feel confident in, write down a couple of bullet points. By the way, you don't need a fancy PowerPoint. All you might need is a notepad, right? Yeah. About kind of where you want to go and just riff. And when you can talk authentically off the cuff like that, I think it's helpful to have a structured opener, right? An opening, whatever, to kind of warm things up and get yourself going. But I would love to get your tips on sort of delivering like a great keynote and how you address that.
Yeah, 100%. And like with my one, like I've got my 5 steps. And I know where I'm going in each one, but you can't be super rigid because every performance, every keynote is going to be different. The audience is going to react differently. And you need, like you said, you need to be authentic. Mm-hmm. Because I said to one of the guys that I used to do speaking with a long time ago is the audience has a great bullshitter meter.
Yeah.
They know when you're talking rubbish. They know when you're passionate and when you're not. It comes across, you can try and fake it, but people pick it up. They'll go, man, he used that terminology wrong. He doesn't know this, he doesn't know that. And as soon as they start picking holes in it, you lose all your credibility.
Yeah.
Whereas with the 5 steps, I know it inside and out, because even though, yes, we can concocted it to become a keynote, it's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you practice it. And like you said, you only need bullet points. And then, so it goes from, okay, I have an idea of what I'm going to do, when I should hit those points, and practice. And then you go just, okay, I need a couple of bullet points.
Yep.
And then you practice, and then you need nothing. And then you get to that point where you need nothing. And when I'm practicing, I love putting headphones on with crowd noise, because you're never going to do it in a sterile environment. So, and I love getting the energy from the crowd, getting the energy from people around, and you vibe off that, being able to, like you said, you just riff. And if you see someone that's off the side drifting a little bit, you can bring them into the talk. So it's being able to change things, bring them in, knowing your stuff, because it's part of who you are. Not like, I've been lucky enough to speak at financial conferences. I've been lucky enough to speak at security leagues, clubs, rugby league teams, netball teams. I don't know things about the fiscal projection or this or that. I'm here to raise your vitality. I'm here to give you systems and strategies to raise the teamwork and raise your vitality, raise your morale. Not talk about the fiscal projections in 6 months' time and this and that.
Yeah. I think what's important here that you're saying here is that authenticity and the easiness of that comes when you know what you're talking about. So know what you're talking about. Here, an anecdote that I'll use is that I used to work for a very large sporting goods company, like a big retailer, and I would have to get onto camera and talk about different sporting goods. And these were like commercials that were going to be played in the store. Anyway, if I was talking about a yoga mat or a pair of like athletic shoes, it was great, because those are products I use and I like. When I had to talk about the snowboard or the golf clubs, I was like, I was reading a script. It did not come off authentically. I didn't sound like an expert, because guess what? I wasn't. So this is about like the first step to kind of taking back control of imposter syndrome, and it is authenticity. So first of all, authenticity, but so that is, who are you? What do you know? And then it's like, I'm the boss of this. This is what I know. I'm actually an expert in this. And so I think whether it's, again, a speaking engagement, a program, a coaching conversation with a client, go with what you know and don't do what you don't know. And then right there, you've just made it easier on yourself. It's just far, far easier to start from that place.
100%. And like you said, with the imposter syndrome, because I was going to come back to that, where we've all been in that situation where you go, I'm little old me. Who am I to talk to you guys on the other side of the world? Who am I to go out and talk in front of hundreds or thousands of people? And you do get that. But then over time, when you start getting feedback from people as well, that goes away, because we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know as well.
Right.
So we put our assumptions on other people, that everyone has been through my experiences, that everyone has been through what I've been through and has the knowledge that I have. So why should I share it? Whereas a lot of people, like in the fitness world, they haven't been what I've been through. I haven't been what you guys have been through. We all have our own areas of speciality.
Yes.
And yeah, so long as you stick to that, like, I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And knowing what you're not good at is, like I was talking about before, in a team, you all have your different positions, requiring different skill sets and different mindsets. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not an IT person. I love getting up and talking to people. I love getting up, whether it's one-on-one, one-to-many, whatever it is. I love the communication side of things. So I've brought in people that are strong in my weakness, and I'm strong with their weakness. So we raise each other up. Not only do we raise each other up, but we hold each other accountable. which is a big part where I think a lot of people fall down when it comes to training, when it comes to businesses, especially people that run, the small businesses, the mum and pop, the family stores. When you don't have the team around you, you can slide, and then it starts off slowly and then suddenly drops. But having those people around to help keep you accountable, make sure that you hit the targets, and you want to give people an idea of where you want to be in 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, so that they can, then you break it down. Like with training, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain strength? Do you want to be able to run a kilometer or a mile in a certain time? What's that end goal? And then you break it down. As a trainer, we need to keep people on target, because they'll go good for that first week or that first month, but then they'll drift off. And that's where, like, I love saying to people as well, where it's consistency over intensity. And that's in both training, business, speaking, coaching, any element, because we all get that rush where we, especially after the Christmas, New Year break, people go, I have to go back to the gym. I have to do, and they're so pumped up, but they haven't been for the last 3 months, the last 6 months. So they go and they do their squats, their chin-ups, and then you don't see them again for another week, a month, if ever, because they've gone so hard. Yes, they had good intention, but the intensity was too hard, too early. Whereas if you get someone that comes in and they do little after little after little and progressively overload, so intensity does come, but it's not right at the beginning. You need to make it become a habit, make the body and mind get used to it. The body and mind has to get stronger. It builds up endurance, and then the intensity can come once it becomes a good habit.
That's a great piece of advice, because we see people, I know I do personally in my own coaching practice, where that's where they fall down. They're either trying to do too many things at once, right? They've got like 5 freaking goals. I'm like, that's not a focus. We need to focus on something specific. We can have some secondary ones that, come forward because we're focused on this one thing. But, when we're having a conversation about what we're focusing on that week, we can't start out with 5. We can get to 5, but we got to build on that. You got to start with one thing, So many people fall down because the expectations for what they think they can accomplish in the very beginning really are not in line at all, right? And we know this because we've been professional coaches for years, and we've seen it time and time again. Meanwhile, they're following some Yahoo on social media who made it look like a breeze. Right. And you can get your bikini body in 3 weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah, 5-minute abs.
Oh my God. Like, it's just, come on. You are just setting people up for failure. It's so frustrating. And so, my role at the school that we work for is talking with folks who are curious about health coaching. They're looking to become, and so they ask a lot of questions. And, one of the things that comes forward, and it comes forward with our students, is a lack of confidence in their own ability. Like, to your point, to use your words, who am I to do this, compared to, we're comparing ourselves to people that are, titans in this industry and have been for decades. First of all, that's not fair. Stop comparing yourself to other people. And the other question you asked yourself is, who would hire me to do this? And this is what people are asking. They're asking, why would they hire me when all this stuff has already been said before? There's 1,000 different books, like, all this stuff. And what the question that I kind of turn around and I try to ask them is, kind of, why wouldn't somebody hire you? Because if there's something, let's fix it. Right? Let's give them a reason to hire you. Because quite frankly, how many people do you know entered into a diet or read a book that, had they actually implemented it, they would have been successful? Yet they are serially unsuccessful. Why do you think that is? Because the newsflash is that information alone doesn't make people successful. It doesn't, right? You need to change an environment. So in order to change an environment, you have all these other things that need to happen along the way. So it's this idea of holding people accountable. And we try to flip that on its head a little bit and saying, like, as coaches, I can't be the one that holds you accountable forever, because at some point I'm not going to be there, right? So we've got to work with our clients in being able to hold themselves accountable. And it's something that you've been alluding to. I know Erin and I have our own kind of ways we do that. I would love to hear kind of your approach on how you help people kind of make that realization and hold themselves accountable, like keeping that motivation high.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, motivation, it peaks and it troughs. It peaks and it troughs. But how can we get it to stay higher and the trough, keep the motivation high and the troughs not drop as low as they do? And what that all comes down to, from my perspective, is creating habits, making things become habitual. Like you said, as a coach and trainer in any element of life, whether it's someone wanting to get their diet on track, whether it's someone wanting to lose weight, gain muscle, gain strength, or even in other things of their life, whether their business is starting to slide. You start off with, you said it best, just one thing. It's you don't want to scatter everything around. You don't want to be that machine gun and just shoot 1,000 rounds off. You shoot 1,000 rounds off and you hit nothing. Be that sniper. I've got a mate where he does a keynote. Well, he used to do a keynote on that, about being a sniper. What it is, you do research on one thing. Mm-hmm. What is that one thing in life? What is that one thing in training? And then you dig deep on that one thing. And then given time, given repetitive action, repeat, refine, repeat, refine, then it becomes habitual. And then what you do have to do as well is, what a lot of people don't do is what I think you're alluding to is, people do all that training, but they forget to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to execution as well, where it's people, and that comes back to what we were talking about a while ago before as well, with imposter syndrome. It's, yes, we all get it. Everyone gets it. Even the top of the top had that when they started off, but they still executed. And when you have a shot, say if you have your target, at least if you pull the trigger, you know if you've hit a bullseye. You might miss the target completely, but then you get to line up again, raise the barrel, and then get it there again. Even a blind person that pulls the trigger has a better chance of hitting a target than someone that just never does. And that's what it is, taking repeated efforts, time and time again. Build your resilience, build your self-worth by doing it.
I think the sniper metaphor is pretty interesting, because just kind of how you wrapped it up there. Like, let's say you're an untrained sniper or you're having a bad day and you take the one shot and you miss it. Then what do? Well, you have to course correct, right? So there you have to take the steps to course correct. Course correction, I think that's an enormous part of what coaches, what we teach or nurture out of clients. You talked about it in the framework of repetitive action, which I love. I use the phrase consistent action with my clients. And it's like, to Laura's point, okay, we're going to do this one thing. We're going to do this one thing this week, even though they want to do a million things. It's like, no, we're going to do this one thing. And if they report back that it went pretty good, it's like, okay, we're doing it. Let's do it again.
Yep.
And they'll think, well, no, I want more. Let's do something more different. It's like repeating and repeating this is the skill to master. Like this consistency and this practicing and being patient with nailing this one skill, rather than going for the next thing. But there's a ton of patience that's required, and people are impatient. So sniper's very patient. So, yeah. People are impatient. I think one of our jobs as coaches is embodying patience so that our clients sort of bring it online for themselves. Yeah. So I keep hearing you mention this. I've heard you mention a few times this idea of like repeat, refine, repeat, refine. These are small incremental changes.
Yeah.
Now tell us about times when people push back on this with you. So you're working with CEOs, who I imagine are pretty, I mean, whatever. We're not going to generalize CEOs. They're not all the same, but Some, I would imagine, are like, let's go, let's do this, let's knock this out of the park. Come on, what's the big step we can take? And you're here with these little refinements. So have there been times where you've kind of bumped up against that with some high-powered people you can share with us?
Oh, definitely. And it does happen all the time. And like I speak about with my 5 steps, the second step is NAP, where we're not designed to work 24/7, 365. And with that, that's where I get a lot of pushback from the CEOs, from the C-level guys, when they go, no, we have to pump it up, and go,
The second step is NAP?
NAP, yeah.
I want to hear all 5 steps, but okay, so keep going. And then we'll go back. I want to hear the 5 steps.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so with that, as I mentioned before, we're not designed to work 24/7, 365. And with mobile phones, I'd put my money on 99% of people listening and watching, they have their phone within arm's reach. Because we have it all the time. So we never get that time to switch off. And I like to use the analogy of a CEO is like an Olympian, because I've been lucky enough to train both. Yes, they're different, but if you think about it, they're very, very similar. They both are at the top of their game. They both have these incredible skill sets that they're incredibly proficient in. They need to be mentally and physically switched on. And yes, CEOs need to have a wide array of, they need to be able to see everything. That's why they're up high. But then they've got their one goal, and it comes back to one thing. What's the biggest needle mover? Because they've got all these people underneath them where they can tell them to keep an eye on that, keep an eye on this. But everyone has that skill set, because you can be a jack of all trades and master of none, but then you get paid jack of all trades money. If you want to be really excellent in something, choose again just one thing, and you'll get paid excellent money for that one thing. So you do have those big audacious goals that are just massive. Break it down. And yeah, the big part that Erin mentioned as well, where I keep going on, where it's not just repeat, because practice doesn't equal perfect. Practice plus refinement equals getting better. Practice equals permanent. So and we'll take it back to the gym setting. If someone's doing squats, because that's a big one, and you'll see their hips shift out. So they squat down and the hips shift out. If they constantly do that, say if they do five sets in a session, they might do legs twice a week. So they're doing 10 sets of 10, 100 reps every week. The muscle, the body is great at creating habits. The way it'll track, it will naturally track that way. So practice is permanent, but that's far from perfect. But you get a coach in, whether it's with the CEOs or whether it's with the Olympians, and you're just refining. They got to that point perfectly fine without you. You need to, like you said, tear things back, go back. And it's not adding stuff on, it's polishing. And when you're polishing, you're taking fine details off to really make this sculpture fine. You want to smooth the edges that might be a little bit rough. And it's a small details. And that's why a lot of CEOs and a lot of Olympians get to that point, because they're aware that they don't need these big changes. They need that little change that can make a big difference. Yeah, and it's the same whether it's in weight training or in the business as well. Little changes make big changes in the long run.
So what are your 5 steps towards vitality? Do you mind sharing?
Certainly. I'd love to share with you. And the first one is snapping into action, creating routines and rituals to get you pumped up and snapping into action. Because think about it like we're in a fight. We're in a fight, and when the referee goes, fight already, boom. That's a point where you need to snap. Because when people come into work, you see them walking in gingerly. They don't have much aim, much dedication, and they waste 10, 15, 20 minutes before they snap into action. But it's creating routines and rituals. What can you do each and every day to fast track yourself? I love using the power pose. This is where you stand tall, you take up space, you put your hands on your hips and chest up, head up. Holding that pose for as little as 2 minutes can help raise your testosterone while lowering your cortisol. It gets you into that alpha mindset. But you'll see people with their phones, they walk around, their head down, their shoulders slumped. They're sitting at a computer, shoulders slumped. They're like that. You don't get the energy coming in when you're like that. You get the energy coming in when you're like that. When you walk with passion and purpose. Don't just dawdle along.
Yeah.
You can dawdle when you're on holidays. You can dawdle any other time on the weekends. But when you're at work, you want to be the best performer you can. Because in any sport, in any team, in any business, the top performers, they get the most rewards. So you want to be that elite performer. So the way that you can do that is snap into action. I love using music. I put my headphones on and music can get you pumped up when you're feeling flat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a great mood alterer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It can pump you up or it can calm you down. And that's one of the drills that I get people to do. I play some music. We start off with some Bob Marley, but just get them kicking back, chilling. Because I love Bob Marley and it's just so relaxed. But you want that when you're on holidays. You want that on the weekends. You don't want that when you need to snap into action, whether you're a boss, whether you're a manager, whether you're an employee. You don't want to be in that chilled fashion. So then I mix it up and I get them to shake it up and then sit tall, stand tall. And then I play some AC/DC because that, you get the energy coming from that and it gets you going. You move with power, passion, and purpose. Because Tony Robbins says it best when emotion is led by motion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk with power, passion, and purpose, and everything else seems to follow. And even when the mind doesn't want to do it, I'm sure you guys and the guys that are listening, they've had that experience. When you wake up, like here it's just gone 3:15 in the morning. And like you go, oh, I don't feel like getting out. But you get up, you act, your mind doesn't want to, but you get your body to lead your mind. So you get up and you react before your body can even, you're up and you're at it and your mind goes, what's going on? So you have to get moving. You have to start the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mel Robbins with a 5-second rule. Yeah. Your alarm goes off, you get up and you go.
Right.
I like using the power pose, music, all that sort of stuff. When I'm walking into my gym or when I'm walking into a conference, I'm walking, like people might say it's arrogance. They can call it what they want. I think of it as passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Because I care what I do. We spoke about nervous and excited before. I'm excited to get my message out there. I'm excited to help as many people as possible. And it's just the way people interpret it. And that comes back to building up your confidence as well. If you don't have confidence in yourself and people call you arrogant, you get the rug taken out from underneath you. And that's what happens when you have the imposter syndrome. As I said, we all get it, but you need to surround yourself with positive people, especially at the start of it, people that are going to help build you up. Yeah. Mine, as I mentioned before, was my wrestling coach, where I have my utmost faith in him. So I had to put my faith in his faith in me. Because people, as coaches, we can see things that people can't see themselves. You can't see the frame when you're in the picture. So when we're coaching people, they have to put their faith in us because we have faith in them.
Right.
To start off with, you need to put your faith in people's faith in you. And then eventually you build up, you have this confidence, you have this resilience where it's not arrogance, it's passion. Yeah. And there's a difference there.
Yeah. Okay. Snap into action. I listened to Elton John during my workout yesterday. Where does that fall on?
No, and
Rocket Man? What were you listening to?
There's that new mix as well that they've got with Elton John, where that's quite up.
That was in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm saying that when we were wrestling as well, we used to wrestle to classical music And that's really to try and calm you down, but we want to override that.
Yeah.
We want to use our minds more to be able to switch that out. So it's finding that it's a weird sort of balance. It's like when you're training, say my daughter, she does trapeze. So with trapeze, she does acrobatics and all that sort of stuff. But in order to get good at balance, you need to be able to unbalance.
Right. Yep. That's right.
So and that's where being able to get motivated when you have relaxing music on. But that's a super advancing. That's not to start off with. To start off with, yeah, you use it and you pump it up. And it's different for everyone. Like you said, Erin, you had Elton John on, and some people, the classical music does pump them up.
Yeah.
But that just doesn't pump me up.
No.
So everyone has their own unique playlist.
Yes. Okay.
So
good. That's good. Actually, so there's so many good sound bites that you're sharing here that I just keep jotting down. Like in order to learn balance, you have to be unbalanced. I say that all the time when I teach yoga, because there's balance inherent in yoga, and it's like, hey, wobbling is how you learn to balance. That's the whole point of it, right? Okay, we want to move
neurological pathway.
Yeah, we want to move through your next step, because it's napping, and I definitely want to know how this fits in.
Yeah, so nap, like I said, we're not designed to work 24/7, 365. So what we're actually designed to do, we work in short, intense chunks. So, and there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, which it's been scientifically proven to help you retain more information and be more productive. Because people think that I'm going to be more productive, I'm going to nut out hours upon hours upon hours. But there's also research that shows, even for elite mental athletes, like scientists, mathematicians, the people where, like, they're the Olympians of the mind world, where they've got a point around 90 minutes, so an hour and a half in, where they get a sharp decline in their output. Their concentration goes, because again, they're single focused at one thing. With the Pomodoro technique, we're not going for that 90 minutes. We're starting off with 25, 30 minutes. You have no phone calls, no emails, no distractions. You're just single focus at that one thing. And then you get up and you get away from the computer. You get the blood pumping, you get moving. So stepping away from the computer is brilliant. That's when you catch up on phone calls, emails. You might have a conversation with someone at the water cooler or whatever you want to talk about, to escape from work for just that few minutes. Then you come back and you do it again and again and again. And your mind is a muscle. So it's like when you go to the gym, you don't start off with that 100 kilos or 220 pounds. You start off with that 20, 25 minutes, and then gradually going to build up to 30, 35. I like to go to about 45 minutes is where most people are comfortable at before they get that drop in their return. And it's also about having a lunch break as well. In Sydney, Australia, and other capital cities that I've been to, people see it as a badge of honor. I worked my way through lunch again. Whereas there's certain research that shows you 16 to 20% more productive if you have a lunch break.
Yep.
And they go, yes, I had a lunch break. And I go, no, you didn't. You sat at your computer or you're eating that. I can see the crumbs on your keyboard. So it's about getting out, leaving work, having that time to have that nap, switching off, go for a walk, make sure you hydrate. Most people are chronically dehydrated. So make sure that you have right hydration, adequate nutrition, not a high fat, high sugar, double glazed donut, or that big slice of greasy pizza. Because you have it, but then you have that 2 or 3 p.m. slump when most people have.
Yeah.
And during my lunch break as well, because we're all super busy. I'm not taking that away from anyone. But what you need to do is you have that downtime. I put my headphones on and I do a guided meditation for 15 or 20 minutes. So I do that, and it allows my mind to recover. And then I get out and I go for a walk. I get moving. I get some fresh air. And it doesn't matter even if it's raining, still getting that fresh air, getting the sunlight, even though there's clouds, the sunlight is still coming through.
That's right.
So that can really help elevate you. And it's also about being able to sleep properly at home. I talk mostly about having the nap at work, working in short, intense chunks, talk, recover, doing that. But at home, it's about being able to have a restful sleep. And most people, their rooms are too warm. If possible, you want to have blackout blinds and you want it to be around 18 or 19 degrees, which is a lot cooler than people normally have. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm talking about Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, and then you'll go into a better sleep, have routines as well. So you cut out caffeine, try and cut out sugar, because as people, they have their dessert, they have the coffee with the dessert. Cut that out.
Right.
So have stuff that's good for you. And you want to also try and eat. Don't eat and go straight to sleep. You want to have that time, that window, to allow your body to start digesting, because if it's digesting when you're asleep, like the majority of your meal, it's not a restful state either.
Right.
That's true.
So, and being able to switch off as well. It's funny where you see the meme of the person holding the mobile phone while they're asleep and they drop it on their face. I know many people that I may have done it once or twice myself, but you want to try and escape technology as much as you can.
Agreed.
Give yourself that wind down time. Listen, again, I use it when I go to sleep, whether it's soft music or guided meditation as well, because there's a guy that I love listening to, Paul McKenna, where he has this sleep meditation. And because a lot of people, their mind is going 1,000 miles an hour. You need to slow it down. And like you were talking about with yoga, a lot of it is breathing oriented.
Yeah.
So being able to concentrate on your breathing in all situations, in high stress situations, whether it's in a board meeting, you see that your breath, it goes from nice, deep breaths to short, shallow, shitty breaths. And they're wondering why their mind can't keep up with what's going on.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's best just to stop, step back, and then go again. Give yourself that little time. And that right there is a little nap. Standing up. If you're getting frustrated with writing an email or something, stop.
Away from it.
Step back. Yeah. And this can be far enough. Like from here, step away, turn away so that it's not in front of you. Now it's to the side. It appears that everything's a lot more open. Take a couple of deep, intentional breaths, and that just gives you time to clear your mind. And if you clear your mind and you work with clarity, you're going to stop making those small mistakes. And those small mistakes, yes, it might be a little bit here and a little bit there. But then what you have to do, you have to go back and fix that. So you're doubling down on the mistake. So you do the mistake and then you go, oh man, I have to go back and fix that up. It's a time saver as well. You end up being more productive as well because of the power of the nap.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
What's number 3?
So number 3. So after a nap as well, you must snap back into action. So you have to remember that so that you don't come back from lunch break and be all sluggish. You go, yes, you do that. I'm not sure if you guys know the All Blacks, the rugby union team for New Zealand, how they do the haka.
Yeah.
Bah, yes, you do your own mini version of the haka. And then the third step is tap. Like many people think of tapping as giving up and quitting. Because in fighting, like if I get caught in an arm bar, they're trying to hyperextend my arm. And if I don't tap, I'm either going to dislocate my elbow or break my arm. So I tap, I step back. There's no point constantly going at things. If something in your business or something in your training or something in your life isn't working, you don't keep going at it. You're not going to run at that brick wall. What you might do is step back. And when you step back from it as well, you can see other opportunities. You can see other ways to do it. Like many, many businesses see the importance of tapping and evolving. And they're the people that stay in the game. Even big players, like you guys aren't as old as me, but Nokia mobile phones, they were massive.
I remember.
See, and they're now no longer a player on the mobile. They were the biggest one in the industry during the mid to late 90s. And now they're no more because they were constantly tapping and evolving. So you can see how that works in business as well. They were doing it. They're the first ones to come up with lights, come up with camera, come up with action on their phone.
Don't forget Snake.
Yes, and so many people, the game's on it, and the original Nokia with a game, and people, and it's funny you say that because people do talk about that still to this day, having Snake on their phone, because I know that I spent too many hours trying to perfect it. But then they stopped tapping and evolving.
Yeah.
Because instead of going with Android, they went with the Symbian system. And because they were too arrogant to go to that side of things, they're now no longer a player on the mobile phone industry.
Yeah.
You have Samsung, Galaxy, you have all these other phones, but Nokia is now no longer there.
I always called that like, be prepared to pivot. You know, when something's not working, you pivot.
100%. Yeah. And that's what it is. And it's like, it's not just tap and go, but it's tap, step back, look at what are your options. Because like I said, when you're running against a brick wall, taking that 5 meter step back, you may see that there's a door just down the end. You walk around, you open up the door and walk through. It saves a lot of pain, a lot of time in business. It may save you business. It will save you a lot of money, and it'll save you a lot of time as well. Just being able to step back and analyze it and see what worked and what didn't work. In fighting, I figure out how they caught me in an armbar. So now I know how to protect myself from it. I know if I get caught in that position, how to save my arm. I still have to tap, but you learn each time from it. It gets that little bit tougher. You know, like you said, pivot. We've all had to pivot during the last 2 years. We've been able to do that. So it's tapping, learning, growing, and evolving.
Okay.
Because and with the last 18 months, 2 years, I used to do this 8-week coaching. It wasn't online, but it was very local. But then when we went into the first lockdown, like the entire globe went into the lockdown, okay, we can't do that anymore. But where can we tap, grow, and evolve? And that's where it comes into going online. So getting the course, filming it, putting it online. So now it's accessible global, not just local. But anytime you tap, again, you must snap back into action, because you can't have something that fails and go, oh, poor me, poor me. It's unfortunate, but at the end of the day, people, they don't care.
Right.
Whether it's like with your business, whether it's if I've bombed on stage, I care, but people, they don't really care. They're so invested in themselves. So you pick yourself up and then you snap back into action. Then the fourth step is clap, is celebrate.
I love that.
Because often we're so hard on ourselves. We don't take time to celebrate those little steps along the way. Whether it's in training, you're getting that little bit better. You might stand up with you and your coach, you go, well done, celebrate. In sports, in rugby league, we celebrate. We celebrate at training. We celebrate time, effort, and dedication that goes into getting there. But also, you don't just celebrate the successes. You also, like say in rugby league, if I've dropped the ball, that means my opponents get it. My mates don't come up and kick me while I'm down, and they still pick me up. They dust me off. They pat the bum, scruffs in the head. Don't worry about it, David. Let's come back and let's, as a team, let's race for this one set. So it's not dragging people down. You're trying to lift people up, because people perform better when they're lifted up. Because if you're constantly getting chastised and beaten down when you make mistakes, you tighten up and you're more than likely going to compound the error as opposed to playing your natural game. So clapping, celebrating, because people are willing to do more for people that they care about than they are for themselves.
That's very true.
You see
Love
it can work.
All right.
So we have
Love that.
snap, nap, tap, clap.
What could the next one be? We should,
It's all rhyming.
Map.
Recap.
Recap. That's right.
Recap. So this is the fifth and final step. So it's all about continuous, never-ending improvement.
Right.
Which is like we said before, where it's practice, refine. It's that constant refinement, constantly getting better. And that's where your coaches come into it. When I used to coach, I was head strength and conditioning coach of the rep teams over in South Sydney. So we'd go there and we watch the game, and you take down notes, what worked and what didn't work. And then with all the coaches, we'd watch it on video because everyone sees things slightly differently. So we'd all write down notes. Then we watch it a third time, this time with the players. So the players will get a handout on what we believe worked and what we believe didn't work. But then it opens up lines of communications, not just from top to bottom. So not just from the boss to the staff, but more importantly, bottom to top. People that are on the ground, that are performing it, that can hear everything that's going on. We want to know what worked and what didn't work. But most importantly, as a coach, we want to know what didn't work so that we can improve it next time. And you also, it's not just then about me going, okay, we're going to fix it by this and this and this. No, we get the buy-in from the players. So you get the buy-in from your staff that are on ground zero, that are there working with it day in and day out and working closely with it. So they can hear if the machine's making a funny noise. They can hear the chatter, what's going on. So how can we improve? And in football, in business, I write it up on a big whiteboard so that everyone can see what's going on. Everyone is playing off the same playbook, because you don't want half the team going that way and half the team going that way. We want everyone to be going in the same direction.
Right. Yeah.
So, and
we talk about this a lot, Aaron, right? Too, when folks feel as though they've messed up. This has been big after our Thanksgiving holiday here, and rather than kind of beating yourself up about it, it's really more encouraging that client to take the emotion out of it for a minute, the judgment out of it for a minute, and be like, okay, so what caused you to trip up? I think we know the environment. We're in Thanksgiving and there's a crap ton of food around. Okay, so can you change that? Could you? Right? It's really more about getting my client to look at it from a non-judgmental place, more from a place of observer.
Yeah.
To just be like, what could I do different next time? If I was going to relive this, what might I like? Just kind of helping that client kind of pre-experience how they might do something different moving forward from a positive place. That sounds a lot like kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. And what you've mentioned right there is empowering them. You give them the power, because you can't stop Thanksgiving.
Right.
Why would you want to anyway?
Right.
But what you can do is you can limit the amount that you put on your plate. You can limit the amount that you drink. You can put these little limitations, and you have to be aware as well that, like with anything worthwhile, it's worthwhile doing it tough to start off with. It's going to be hard when everyone else is gorging and they fall into that food coma, and you're there going, man, I'm still feeling alive. But then a couple of hours later, when they're all asleep and you're there going, man, I'm still fresh, I'm still alive, I can do this, this, and this. You're going to feel so much better about yourself as well. Yeah. And then that's a positive cycle. And like you hear people always talk about the negative, when negative breeds negative. Yes, that happens, but it also works the exact opposite way. So you build positive upon positive upon positive, and you build that momentum. Momentum is a great tool that we all can and should use. And it's tough. It's always going to be tough to move that weight that direction, because it's on a swing. So you push it and it's going to push back, but that's all right. It's going to swing that way. But when it swings back that way, you've already started the momentum going. So you're going to get that little bit further and that little bit further. So use that. And then Mr. Murphy's law is always going to come in and kick us when we think we have the weight pushed. When we think we have it all the way there, it's going to pull the rug out from underneath us. We're going to fall down. Momentum's going to go back that way. But we're not starting off from square one again. Like I said, momentum goes that way. And then as it's going that way, we can catch it and run with it and go even further ahead.
Inertia is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So do you use this keynote? Tell me a little bit about how you use it. Are you paid to come speak, or do you use it, hey, I'll come speak for free, and you're looking to use it as a way to leverage into a coaching relationship? Would you speak to that a little bit about the role this plays?
Yeah, for sure. Because what I do for the most part is it's part of a 12-month, depending on how deep they want to go with it. So it's part of a package deal where whether the corporates want to get me in, or there have been times where I just come in and I just give that one keynote. And I'm not about really hard selling people, because I believe that people will get enough value anyway that they'll want to come and do coaching, that they'll want to come and learn more about me, that they'll want to come and jump on the David bandwagon. And you know what? There's room for everyone. And the great thing about this as well is, well, sorry, I was going off track a little bit there. I get carried away and get going. But yeah, so with that, I get paid and I go and do the one keynote, or it's part of a package for the entire 8 months, 12 months, or we can even pair it back to 6 months, depending on how often they want me to come in. Yeah, so with that, and the great thing about speaking and is it all comes down to who we are. So even though we're all fitness people, our message is all slightly different. And the people that I'm going to be able to reach, you guys may not be able to reach. The guys that you can reach, I may not. You know, you jam with certain people and you really hit that alignment. So where people go, no, this person's taking business. It's not about taking business from anyone. It's about lifting everyone up. And that comes like to step 4, which is clap. We celebrate everyone around, like celebrate the other speakers that are there, the other coaches that are there, because they've got a different mindset, different philosophy, different terminology, even for the same philosophy. That's which true. Yeah, everyone has their own unique market. And if we can all help people raise their bar, raise their standards, everywhere's going to be a lot better.
You know, I'm glad you said that, because that comes up a lot. I think Aaron probably hears it too from just our students, where it seems that wherever they are, the area, you know, that health coaching feels like it's a saturated field. And I'm like, oh my, are you serious? I'm like, that's just because who you follow on Instagram. You follow all the same people. So they're all in your feed, and you feel like there's all these people out there. I'm like, all you need is like a trip to the grocery store. Yeah. To realize this is not a saturated market. There are so many people that need help, and that, you know, it's about having this abundance mindset instead of, you know, a scarcity mindset. So I'm super glad you said that. So your particular niche at this level is higher performing people, either athletes or corporations or CEOs. Was that a niche you sort of stumbled into? Was it an area that you wanted to focus in? I mean, because a lot of times people ask, I don't know who my niche is, you know, and we're like, well, who are you? Start with that. Clearly you were a high level athlete. Was this just natural for you, and where your connections were?
Yeah, 100%. And that's what it comes down to with the connections, because like I mentioned before, I didn't even know about speaking as an industry. I didn't think that people like little old me could get in and do that, get in and get paid good money for doing that. I thought, man, and that's where, like, that mindset of the scarcity, where it's not for me. Those people that are up on that pedestal, it's for them. But it was something that I really did stumble into. With it started off going to the Eric Thomas seminar, a thing popping up on Facebook to go to a speaking course. And then it's building momentum, talking to people. Like I mentioned earlier, just about being able to talk to people and not being scared of them pulling the rug out from underneath me. It's amazing how many people want what you have once you tell them about it.
Right.
If you don't tell them about it, they're not going to know about it. It's like, I'm now able to speak to like your audience. 5 minutes before this started, they had no idea who David was. But yet being able to get out there, hook up with you guys and be able to spread the message. And whether it's like your students, they're going into the coaching industry. And like you said, they're surrounding themselves with other coaches. So of course it seems like there's a million of them because you're hanging around with other coaches. Just again, be able to step back and go, this is just a tiny little niche of people. There's so many more out there. It's like when I was fighting, you go, man, there's so many fighters out there. And then you go into the real population and you go,
I know.
Where are they?
Nobody fights.
yeah, they've abandoned me. Like from being in this little bubble of where everyone's a fighter to now it's a rarity and people go, oh my goodness, you do this, you do that. In the real world, it's like with coaching, they're not going to know that you're a coach. They're not going to know that you can help them if they don't know who you are and that's what you do. And that leads quickly into the four steps towards mastery. So first of all is you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know that you don't know. And then so it's unconscious incompetence.
Yeah.
Conscious incompetence. Then you know what you know. That's where you have to think about what you're doing. So you have that conscious competence. And then it becomes muscle memory. And that's an unconscious competence. So that's where with fighting, you see them just react. It almost seems before the punches come, they're not thinking about it. They're reacting.
Right.
And it's like with that. So you get to that level of mastery, no matter where you are in those 4 areas, especially once you get to the conscious competence, that's where you're starting out and go, okay, I can help people. I have to think about it, but let's get a foot in the door. Let's start with your family members. Let's start with your friends. And you might do it pro bono or whatever, but it's at least getting momentum. It's getting the ball rolling. And then you build up from that.
That's right. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Right, Aaron? We tell you all the time, well, you know, you're not going to get good until you just get out there and do it. Confidence comes with doing things. And that's your very first step, which is action. So, you know, I love that. So tell me, I know we're going to have a lot of people that, I mean, I know this because I talk to them, people that want to focus on that area that you're referring to, either a corporate area, corporate wellness, or higher level CEOs, because that's kind of who they are and they want to get out of the rat race and coach. So I would love for you to share where people can find you and follow you and learn more about who you are and what you do.
For sure. The place that I'm really most active at the moment is on LinkedIn. So I'll put a couple of videos up there. So you look for David Lindsay, just search for me in LinkedIn. And I do have a suit. I'm going to try and change my photo because that's when I started speaking as well. Now I'm more polo shirt because it's about movement. It's about active. And it's sometimes, you know, you feel all tight and stuffy when you're in that. So it's still dressing for success because I believe in that as well. So if I was to come in just my pajamas or whatever, you could hear it in my voice if I was to do it, but I'm not. I'm still dressed up. You can't see from the waist down. You can't even see from, but I'm still dressed for success because the way that you dress influences the way that you think, influences the way that you come across. So sorry. Yeah. So LinkedIn, on YouTube, I've got a YouTube link called Phenom Leap, PHENOMLEAP. So that's a company that I started during the pandemic. And I'll explain why we came up with that name, because you don't walk into a phenomenal lifestyle. You don't run into a phenomenal lifestyle. You leap into that phenomenal lifestyle. So it's about leaping into it, taking action. Like, yeah, walking will get you there. Running will get you there. But then if you come to that obstacle, leap over it. Leap. Have that faith that it's going to open up and that you're going to get to the other side. Or even better, that you're going to grow wings and be able to soar.
Awesome.
So that, and then we have our website, and that's where we sell our course at. The 3 pillars of high performance is Phenom Leap, PHENOMLEAP.com.au.
Awesome.
Cool. Oh my gosh.
So great.
Wow. Yeah. Love your energy, David. And you, again, this conversation was chock full of metaphors that, you know, that not only apply to coaches in practice, but also when we're working with our clients. So I always think it's interesting to see the leap, not the leap, but the connection between what we ourselves have to do as coaches and what we are asking our clients to do. And I think you highlighted this nicely for us. So it was really, and your energy for being like 3, 4 in the morning is insane. So acknowledgement for that. Good job.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing it.
Thank you. Yeah, good. And one thing just to finish off with is, like in training, in coaching, and where I said before, people they have great bullshitter meters. So I don't like hypocrites. I don't get people to swim because even though I can swim, I dislike it. And people can tell the real you if it's really you. So don't try and go, oh, you lift this weight or you speak about this when it's not truly who you are.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, this is how I wake up. And my wife sort of gets tired at times, but she goes off to her work. I go off to mine, and then we come back in the afternoon, and it's all good.
I love it. That's
Authenticity.
fantastic.
Authenticity is the key. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on here. And I hope that you guys and your audience as well got some things that you can take away and implement straight away as well. Because that's what it's all about. You can learn it, but if you don't action it, it's just a tool on your pocket. Get out and pull the trigger.
I like it.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.